Okay, so I guess we'll just play it afterwards. But I guess Justin has called us right now. He called us 5 minutes early. So.
Well, welcome to the Reb Rider Show, Justin, and it's a pleasure to have you on with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and just like I was telling you in the Facebook messages, this is while it might not be a big deal to you per se, because you probably have done interviews, for the book and everything, but it's a very big deal to Reb and I because we literally loved your uncle and
we're fans
and everything that he has done. I mean, we're not like complete fanboys or something like that. Of just like that's all we think about, but it's like. We appreciate and respected everything that your uncle did in his career. So that's why we want to have you on.
Thank you. I mean, you are really some of the main type of fans that I wrote the book for. I know, Ernest especially has such an incredible following, and I really wanted to do something special and really, capture everything about Ernest and, Jim's entire story. I know people were interested in him and what really kind of drove him, so...
Sure, absolutely. Well, anyway, we're talking with the nephew of Mr. Jim Varney, and all you guys out there at Radio Land should know who Jim Varney is. He's the guy who really is known by his character of Ernest P. Worrell. This is his nephew, Justin Lloyd, who wrote a book called The Importance of Being Ernest, the life of actor Jim Varney. Stuff Vern doesn't even know. He was nice enough to send us 5 copies of his book, and we're going to be giving the first copy away here this Friday on my show because we're just kind of pressed for time today as far as we got a lot of stuff going on tonight. So we're doing the interview live tonight here. And I want Reb to say hi to you, Justin.
Oh, you bet, Justin. We really, truly appreciate you sending the books to us. And
it's my pleasure.
You bet.
Happy to do it.
And it's just an awesome thing. And I'm going to tell you something. Before I got to the studio here, I started reading the book, and you know what? It's one of those books that you can't stop reading. So when I get home after the show, I'm going to start on that thing and see how far I get. So I just want you to know that.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It really means a lot. It really does.
So let's start out the interview with pretty much ask the question, what kind of gave you the idea to say one day I'm going to write a book about my uncle? What kind of inspired that?
I tell you, one of the main things I remember going through YouTube and seeing many videos, people would put clips of the movies and a lot of Ernest commercials and so forth, and then I would see the comments to the videos, and they were just some of the best comments you can imagine, calling Ernest their hero and so many things. And I think that kind of resonated with me as far as calling him a hero. I really didn't think of him Ernest in those terms. And I had my own childhood heroes growing up, and I knew how much they meant to me, like Christopher Reeve, as Superman, and so forth, and sports heroes. And that really kind of grabbed me, I think, in wanting to do something that really his fans could really appreciate. That was one of the early kind of inspirations.
I'll tell you something. We can tell you're his nephew because you have a certain tone to you where you sound kind of like your uncle.
Thanks.
Have you ever been told that?
Not particularly. It's interesting, in Kentucky, Lexington is a little more Midwest since we're closer to like Louisville and Cincinnati, and then of course there's Eastern Kentucky that would sound more like West Virginia and kind of more the typical, I guess people would think the stereotypical maybe Southern accent. So.
Yeah, but you do sound like your uncle.
Thank you.
So that's pretty neat in itself.
And the relation as far as him being your uncle is that your mom is his sister.
Yes, he had 3 older sisters, and my mom is the 3rd oldest, Sandra. And so I'm one of actually 2 nephews. The oldest sister, Jo Gale, she passed away many years ago, and she also has she had 2 children. And then my other aunt, her name is Janice. She goes by Jake actually. She has a daughter, and she was a real help in the book, along with my mother. But my Aunt Jake, she stayed at home a bit longer than the other two. She was one of the last to get married, and so she had a lot more memories of Jim at home and some of the stuff that he did in high school and so forth, and some of his friends. So she was a big help.
One of the questions I'd like to ask you is, did your uncle have any children to follow in his footsteps whatsoever? Or?
No, his first marriage, and I touch upon this a bit, and I wasn't able to get a hold of him. He had two stepsons from his first marriage, and they were just a couple years older than me. I really only met them once, and I tried to get in touch with them to interview them, and I couldn't reach them. So because of that, to kind of protect their privacy and everything, I really didn't even mention them by name, but just mentioned them a bit in the book because I thought it was important to mention them, and they were definitely part of his life, and I think he kept in touch with them throughout his life. So,
well, I'll tell you something about Jim Varney and my perspective of it is that when I first saw him in the commercials, I mean, I laughed so hard, and when I found out that there was a collection of Jim Varney commercials, I went down to the local video rental one day, and I got them all. And I invited people over to the house, and we had a Jim Varney party. And we laughed. Oh, we laughed. Jim Varney has brightened a lot of people's lives as far as this reporter is concerned here.
Yes. And I really wanted to, and that's one thing I really also did in the book. I mentioned really everything that he's really done, and wanted his fans to know all the different TV specials or movies, or even the small budget ones they may not have known about, and now they can go see these and see all these things he was in and really appreciate his whole career.
Well, yeah, and to me, that's the thing that makes me even more of a fan, because you got all these actors and actresses that are known for certain things, and that's all people know. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you come out with an idea to finally write a book about somebody that's really popular or that that impacted a lot of people, it's nice to hear the backstory. Like, how did it all happen? How did he get from here to there? I mean, it's just like...
Well, I think, Justin, that your uncle would be very pleased if he knew that you had wrote a book in his honor.
I hope so.
Yeah, I really do.
I asked myself as I wrote it. I mean, I really tried to write it as if he was with me, and everything that he would be pleased with, and I wanted it to be, something that he like to talk about, hunting and so forth. I'm not into guns or hunting or anything like that, but he was, and that was a major part of his life, and and if that could perhaps turn off certain people, but that was him, and I felt that those types of things, I very much wanted to write a book that he may have written about himself.
Well, yeah,
so that was important to me.
It sounds to me that it's just like he was one of us.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I mean, he was just a really kind of a regular guy.
Yeah,
I mean, he really was. He would call himself a blue jeans and T-shirt man.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was kind of reading around, even on your site and stuff, and even all over, the fact that he would, when people would come and meet him, he was not an a-hole towards people. He was a nice, genuine person. You know how some people can be like, rich or snobby and not care about their fans, or charge them $30 an autograph picture or something like that. I think in Jim's case, I think he cared so much about his fans, where he didn't want to give up the idea that, I should be an a-hole towards people. No, I'm going to be cool and just be myself.
And I'll tell you something else. When they went to pick the guy to do Jed Clampett, man, they couldn't have found anybody better than Jim Varney. He was perfect for the role.
Yeah, I thought he was, and and he had to really kind of tone down what he was used to, because he was really the more normal member of that family. You had Granny, who's just nuts, and then, so and I think it was kind of hard for him to kind of tone it down on some occasions, but he did a really good job. and I wrote about that, pretty much in depth in the book, how, the director, she really fought for him. And of course the studios, like probably a lot of people in Hollywood, just saw him as Ernest, and she really fought for him. And that's great. And I think, one of the other serious contenders that she had, this Penelope Spheris, she also directed Wayne's World. She had mentioned Sam Elliott, who actually was a little bit older, and which would have been more of the Jed Clampett age. But I think when she said what it came down to, it was Jim's background in comedy. But yeah, Sam Elliott would have been an interesting choice too. Of course, he was great in the movie, the bowling movie. He was the narrator,
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, he's definitely got comedy chops as well. Yeah. He doesn't have quite the background, but he definitely can do some good comedy. But so that was.
He has a background more like in the Western movies, pretty much.
Right.
That's probably why he would be chosen for that if he would have been.
But I'll tell you what, the part, and I just reviewed the movie here, and I hadn't seen it since it first came out, but the part that stays with me is when the bad guys cut him off in the truck and pulled the gun, and he says, "And this is what I carry."
Yeah.
That
was the movie, man. That was a great start to the movie.
Yeah.
Oh man! But for those who are tuned in right now here on the Red Rider Show special edition, it's Rally Week, of course, and we're not talking about the rally right now here in South Dakota. We're talking about Jim Varney, and we got Jim Varney's nephew Justin Lloyd, who wrote a book, and we're talking about the book, and we're talking to Justin about his uncle, the late great Jim Varney. And basically, it's just a pleasure to have you on, and I could talk to you for hours upon hours, but we'll try to keep it slim here for you because I know it's late over there.
Fine.
Where are you at right now, Justin?
I'm just outside of Lexington. It's
okay. That in Kentucky.
We pronounce it around here. We pronounce it Versailles.
Versailles.
It's named after the French city Versailles.
Have you ever been to South Dakota?
No, I have not, actually.
Well, you need to come out and check out Mount Rushmore before your time is up, because if you've never seen it, it's something to behold.
I'm sure it is.
And if you're a biker, come to the rally.
Sturgis
motorcycle.
Yeah, if you're a motorcycle enthusiast, show up.
Only about 25 miles away from here, from Rapid City.
We do have the book in the studio, and we've been looking through it, and it looks like a real awesome book, and I can't wait to start reading it. So
what I'm amazed about is just the fact that it's a very thick book. I knew it was going to be thick when I read how many pages it was, but it has a lot of information, and I think people would definitely love to pick it up. What I'm kind of wondering is when it came to getting the archive of pictures, because I noticed in the middle of the book, and I don't want to give too much away to anybody that hasn't seen it, but in the middle of the book, there are some very cool, rare pictures. How did you just get them from family members, or did you have to get them from did you have to get the Ernest stuff from the movie producers or whatever, or how'd that happen to get all the pictures?
Well, the family has quite a bit of pictures, and I put credit on each of those to say where they're from. Basically, I just researched this. It took me over 5 years of writing and researching, and I really just...
That's dedication for sure.
Just a complete dedication. I was just so much into this book. And I was able to find people. One of my favorite pictures, and you can probably tell it takes up the whole page, is the picture of him from the exit in. And I was able to find the person who took that picture to give me permission to use it, and that was just a great picture. One of the biggest finds was actually someone who had been really a family friend, but we hadn't really had any contact with this person for many years, and I'd never met him. Still haven't met him in person. His name is Joe Lyles. And this is an old friend of Jim's and his first manager. And he's the one that really got him going with stand-up down in Nashville, and moved out to Los Angeles with him and helped him to really get going in Hollywood. And he just, at one point, sent me a whole box full of things, of old contracts and pictures. And he's the one that sent me the picture that's on the cover of the book. And he was a huge source of information.
What
I quoted him quite a bit in the book.
What is your favorite memory of your uncle? I'm sure you got to have one.
It's probably the many. One time I knew I could count on seeing him every year was on Christmas Eve. That's when my mother's family would celebrate Christmas, was Christmas Eve, and my father's was Christmas morning. So that always worked out really well. So on Christmas Eve, we would either get together at my family's house or one of my aunt's houses here in Lexington, and he would always show up, usually a little later. He'd usually been visiting friends in the area and then come over later. And, I mean, he just would just kind of hold court in the kitchen or wherever, and, I mean, he just entertained. And we're talking from just doing voices and stories and pulling out, you know, his collection of knives or watches or jewelry, and just, I mean, it was just magical.
Well, you answered all my questions. My next one was going to be, was he kind of like the life of the party, and it sounds like he was the center of attention. And of course, you know, when you watch all the commercials and anything he's in, he does command attention when he's working. You know.
Yeah, he was just purely just entertaining. Whether it was kind of showing you something or kind of wanting to teach you something, or just some kind of funny story or imitation of someone. He would imitate Johnny Cash and other characters and so forth. And
I can imagine.
And that was the thing I discovered, you know, with the book. I never knew some of the backstory of some of these characters and where they originated. And Joe Lyles helped to talk about those types of things and how those came about, some of his various characters. And I really try to put all that in the book because so much of this was a journey for me as well, and so I just kind of take the reader on the journey that I've been on the last 5 or 6 years, and is really something.
What I kind of find impressive there, Justin, is the fact that you know, your uncle was also, you know, he, as much as he did a lot of stuff on television and commercials and everything, he also did some rare singing. And, I mean, I'm really amazed by some of the stuff that I found on YouTube, and I'm all into the rare stuff. I'm not into the top 40 stuff like I used to be. And I like playing that stuff. I play that stuff on the radio. I play that even though it's like probably a crappy quality copy, but it's of that song, what is it? Oh, geez, now I'm drawing a freaking blank now. Remember that song that we played last week?
I do, and it escapes me also.
Yes.
Well, I know he did. You know, he did the song for the Beverly Hillbillies movie, the Hot Rod Lincoln.
Well, we played that.
Oh,
one, but,
yeah,
but
we
that
did.
wasn't the one I was thinking. I think it's called "Time Waits for No One."
Yeah. You know, that was a song him and a buddy of his wrote, and you know, because of course he lived, you know, most of his life, or about almost 20 years of his life, just north of Nashville in a small town called White House. It's just north of Nashville.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of friends in Nashville, and he really was kind of an aspiring singer. He was always trying to put together an album, and it's really pretty funny that it was the only time he really had a song on any kind of album was in Hollywood. It was part of the movie soundtrack for 20th Century Fox. And so I thought that was pretty ironic. Here he was in Nashville. He made movies in Nashville. He gets a song on an album in Hollywood. I mean, it's just the opposite. That was pretty funny.
One thing about your uncle, though, in the short period of time that he was around, he left his mark. And he did. I mean, you know, he died young, but I mean, he really lived, you know, how he wanted to, and he really he did everything I think he wanted, and I guess you could say, you know, he kind of burned the candle at both ends. That he lived a couple lifetimes in one. I think a lot of people would probably agree.
So what do you think he would be doing right now if he was still, I mean, he'd probably be, what, about 65 right now maybe, or 66? Or no, I'm supposed to be 65
Yeah,
right
he
now.
would have turned 65 in June.
And what do you think do you think he'd still be in the film industry? I mean, more likely?
I think so.
Make a couple Ernest comebacks probably?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he would have maybe become more interesting in maybe writing. I don't know about directing, but maybe writing something, or still trying to do something with some music.
I think he would have made at least one or two more Ernest films. I think he would have. because the fans. And then he probably would
He
have
might
went
have
to.
even made another Beverly Hills Billies movie for all we know.
The thing is, he
Yeah.
probably would have even went to a couple Comic Cons because he's a pop
Right,
icon.
yeah.
If Pee Wee Herman can do it, so can he. I think a lot of it. Did you ever see a lot of comparison between Pee Wee Herman and or Pee Wee's Playhouse and Hey Ernest, because they kind of competed head to head on the same network on CBS back in the '80s.
Yeah, 88. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see some competition between the two, like even to this day, kind of looking back at it, kind of?
I suppose. I mean, because I enjoyed some of the Pee Wee stuff as well. I think a lot of people. I think where the comparison is, a lot of people like with Pee Wee Herman, and especially the fact that at least Jim would show up some places as himself where it seemed like Pee Wee Herman was always in character no matter what, and you're always just wondering, well, what is he really like? Is he ever out of character?
True.
And in Jim, I mean, he did show up in character quite a bit places, and I know that was made him even more of an enigma of what he was really like.
Absolutely. No, it's just kind of neat just because to find out all this key information because you still should read the book anyway just because you're going to learn so much and I love knowledge, especially obscure knowledge like this
and iconic knowledge to top it off.
Yeah, and also some of the people he was associated with, his friendship with Johnny Cash and a lot of the big names in country music, and he was good friends with Billy Bob Thornton, and so that really, because I'm a huge movie fan myself, and that kind of blows my mind. Some of the people he worked with, and some of the actors and so forth. And I never got a chance to meet really any of them, but so that was really something. Thinking that all these people he got to work with. I mean, even going back to this really failed TV series back in 1980 called Pink Lady and Jeff. He worked with Sid Caesar on the show at one point, was a guest host or a guest star. I mean, it just was unbelievable the people he came in contact with through his career.
It's kind of too bad he never did like a movie with like John Candy or Chris Farley, or I think he would have had a good chemistry with those two.
Yeah. That cast of Beverly Hillbillies is pretty packed with stars. I mean, that was quite. One of my favorite movies was 9 to 5. I love that movie, and you kind of had a small reunion. Dolly Parton had a little cameo, and then you had Lily Tomlin and Dabney Coleman in that movie too.
Oh, sure.
So that was kind of funny. But
and it's hard to believe it's been 21 years since that movie came out.
Man, I tell you what, we're all getting old.
I mean, I was probably, about 9 or 10 at that time, probably?
I don't know, but I've been a fan of the Beverly Hillbillies ever since they hit. And when that movie came out and I found out Jim Varney was in, I went to the theater to view it.
Yeah.
And I came away. They couldn't have picked a better Jethro in there, and Granny was perfect. And I mean, they were all. And
I thought she looked so much like her.
Oh,
too,
yeah, she did. You betcha.
Great.
And even Lily Tomlin did a heck of a job as Jane Hathaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And because I remember the one who played Granny, Cloris Leachman.
Yeah.
I remember seeing her in the first film that I ever remember watching as a kid was Walk Like a Man with Howie Mandel. Christopher Lloyd. Oh, yeah. That's goes way back to 1987.
Well, she had Granny down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But just a couple more questions to kind of ask you. What are for somebody who's a real fan of Jim Varney who thinks they know everything about Jim Varney, what do you recommend about your book? Why do you think people should read your book or go out and buy your book and read it? Why? What point do you think that you're trying to make as far as your book goes?
Well,
that's probably a tough question to ask.
I suppose, it lets you know. One of the interesting things for me was understanding Ernest. I think that whole story about he was a TV person and he went to movies. The whole Ernest phenomenon was for the time really pretty incredible the way they marketed the character, and they went market to market, and he was really kind of all over the country, just slowly, kind of a slow invasion of just doing market to market, never doing a national ad. And they literally did thousands of commercials, and just the way the character worked, and you know, I always thought that you could almost do a whole book on that, and almost like for an advertising kind of book almost. And it was something, you know, you couldn't do now, because with the advent of the internet and something like YouTube, you know, you could upload any video to YouTube and then it goes viral. But then, of course, that didn't happen back then, so they could kind of slowly work their way all around, and so it didn't burn out very quickly at all. And so that was really interesting to me, and I tried to present that in a way that didn't get too boring or anything, but that was interesting. And then the way he wrestled with the character, and just the kind of the psychological part of that, where he, I think he kind of underestimated just how entrenched he had become as a character, and how hard that was going to be to break away. And that's another thing that I really took some time in kind of writing about, and the people he compared himself to.
I'll tell you what, it's obvious is that you loved your uncle, and it's a heck of a tribute to write a book to him.
Yeah, and I think that's what became bittersweet, because, you know, I found so much out about him, and of course the first thing I found myself wanting to do is talk to him about those things, and of course he's not there, and where I was finding out so many interesting things, and I think I gained more sympathy for him and his journey early on, and just, you know, the type of you know, the fight you have to have when you're an actor. It's just, you know, you know, have so many parts that you get turned down for in Broadway, and you just have to keep, you know, to persevere and keep fighting on.
Even in scanning the book right now, I found a little piece in there where he was such a hit that Dan Rather at the time was doing the CBS News, and they had viewed a commercial. Well, when Dan Rather came back on the air, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, sometimes we lose it, because they were laughing hysterically at Ernest.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty neat in your book.
Yeah, and so the same thing happened with Tom Brokaw, and that's probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen him do. At the beginning of the NBC News piece with Tom Brokaw, they show him in this full Shakespeare attire on stage doing a scene from Hamlet.
Yeah,
and then it goes into all the Ernest stuff, and then at the end of the whole piece, it comes back to him doing a Hamlet there on stage. And he's doing this whole soliloquy or something, and then he looks down at the camera and he goes, "Know what I mean, Vern?" I mean, that, you know, that quantum leap from Shakespeare to Ernest in that short period. I mean, that was really just, and of course Tom Brokaw totally cracked up, and that was great. So.
Well, we want to say thank you personally, Justin, for just everything, not just for being a cool guy and letting us interview you, but for sending us the books. We're going to do our best to do a pretty fun giveaway. Try to do some Jim Varney trivia. And once we start reading the book and everything, I think we're going to test out some radio listeners and see if they really know the real Jim Varney, like we're trying to know.
And, Justin, we truly appreciate having you on our
My
show.
pleasure.
And you have it looks like what's a fantastic book here, and we're certainly going to plug it for you.
And just so we can get that plug in there, where can people buy this book at?
Probably the best, easiest place is probably Amazon.com, and there's the ebook and also the paperback. So awesome. They've been the list price on the paperback is $12.99, but they've been carrying it for just under $10 for almost a month now. So
now, is the money being donated to something, or just are you? I mean, like, is it taking care of you financially, or how does that kind of work as an author?
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's going to me at the moment, and I've thought about that. I've thought about perhaps donating a portion of it at some at some point to like cancer research, something like that. I mean, that's definitely was a thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, you deserve to get a little something, too. I mean, you
bet.
spent
You
all
did
this
the work.
time. Yeah.
Doggone right.
Oh, yeah. But, come up with an idea of the Jim Varney charity or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Vern? But any last things you want to say to the listeners out there about your book?
I just, I hope that people check it out and enjoy it, and really, there's a lot that's in there, and and I think as I wrote it, obviously Jim's life came to an early, sad ending, but overall the book is, I made it upbeat and funny because I thought really Jim spent his life making people laugh, and if there was going to be a book about him, it should do the same thing. So. Overall, it's a try to make it a funny, upbeat, interesting read, and so I hope I've done that. So.
Oh, I think you have, and I think people will enjoy the book. It's called "The Importance of Being Ernest: The Life of Actor Jim Varney," stuff that Vern doesn't even know, and it's available now where books are sold.
Right, and the author is Justin Lloyd, and we were really honored to have him on the show tonight with us.
So thanks very much, Sir Justin, and we appreciate it more than you know.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
All right, you have a good night.
There you have it, Justin Lloyd,